Hi friends, this is Jeannie from Metal Dollhouse Rescue. I'm back in my doll room. I'm ready to do phase 2 of my 1951 Cohn house. Tonight my goal is to get the painting done on it. Now that I've got it nice and clean, at least the first story, let's take a look at getting it painted up. Now, before I do that, I want to tell you a quick story. My dishwasher quit working several years ago. I don't remember how long, 3 or 4 years. So I've been hand washing my dishes for a number of years, and honestly, I don't mind. It just takes a few minutes a day. There's just the two of us. Doesn't take long to do them. But my kids saw a need, and they thought maybe I had better things to do than wash dishes. So thank you to them. They bought me a new dishwasher, and my son came and installed it the other day. So I've been able to use my new dishwasher. Although I didn't mind hand washing dishes, it's very nice to have a dishwasher again. Guess what? Less time in the kitchen means more time in the doll room. Let's take a look at this Cohn. Before I start to paint, I want to show you this fun lot of little dolls I got on Facebook Marketplace. Look, there were some little mermaids. Now this is my 51 Cohn house. It is scale 124, and I have added a few pieces of 124 furniture just so you can see what a cute size these little dolls are. I got this on Facebook Marketplace. The lot was $10 and included all of these people except Grandma. There's my grandma, so you can see that she is happy to be having a party. They fit very well. These two little Tinkerbells here on the side, I think are more like 1/16 size, so they're a little bit bigger. But the rest of them I think are really cute for size, for scale 124. So here they are, and you'll be seeing them in my future houses. There were some mermaids, and they're having a mermaid party over here. One of them's waiting her turn for the tub. These two little girls next to, oh gosh, is that Sleeping Beauty? Next to her, I think they are really true Dollhouse dolls. Look at there. And the rest of these are the little princesses. Now they also came with a few little accessories, so I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite ones. There was a little unicorn, a little tiny couch, and a sweet little lamp that just looks like a little legit dollhouse lamp. Then there were a few other items. Here's a bag of accessories. It's got a present in it and like a trident for the mermaids probably. This is a bag of like little erasers, but they're food and little pans. Some of those I think will fit very well in our kitchen. In fact, I've got one over here sitting on the stove, a little teapot, and it's a little eraser that came in that set. Also, there's a bag of like little purses, which I may or may not need or use. I might sit them around the house. There's a couple of shoes in there. And then there's a bag of like the plastic clothes that these dolls can wear if I want to change their clothes. I don't know that I would do that much. If anything, I might take those little plastic clothes off. I might sew a little fabric dress for some of them. We'll see how that goes. But right now they've all got their little plastic clothes on. With the exception of, I think this is Anna, and she's got a legitimate little fabric skirt on. So I think I could make little skirts like that for the rest of them. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that. I saw this on Facebook Marketplace, and I asked if it was still available, and guess what? The lady lived 5 minutes away from me, and the whole lot was $10. So keep your eyes open for that stuff. All right, let's get ready to paint. Okay, I've put my people away. Let's do a brief rundown of what supplies I want to have handy when I'm ready to paint. First, I have got my paintbrush. This is the same one I've used in several videos. It is not very big. There you can see the brush part is about a 1/2 inch, but it's also not super fine. That way I can dab just a little bit, or I can do a bigger area if I need to. I use a plate for my palette, and again, this acrylic paint will just soak right off of there. Wash it. I ran this one through the dishwasher, and it comes out perfect. My paint cup, which I really don't wash every time, it's got a little water in it. I can use that to rinse my brush as well as dilute the paint. A paper towel, I like to sometimes blot or when I change colors or to get a little moisture off my towel or off of my brush. And tonight I've got red paint, yellow paint, and black paint. And I'm going to paint this area here. And I'm going to use that technique where I run tape next to these scratches and then dab on paint. Now this is kind of red, but it's almost a little bit orange here. That's why I've got the yellow. So I'm going to mix up some colors and I'm going to tape these scratches off, and then when I start to paint, I will show you how it's going. Here's a couple of reminders and tips on paint. When I get my bottles, they are not always marked on the top what color it is. This one was not, and I painted a red circle on there early on, so I could, when I have these in a box, I can tell what color that is easily. The black one I also had to paint. Now this one's a different kind of bottle, so that one didn't get painted. But a reminder when I get ready to paint, since I don't use every color every time, when you get ready to open it, give them a good shake. That paint can separate a little bit in there and be kind of watery then, watery versus kind of a thick color. So give those a shake when you get ready to use them. I did use these. I give them all a nice shake. This one, when I went to do it, I could tell it was not shaking very much. And when I pulled the paint out of there, I had to take the lid off and dip my brush down in there because it's got a different kind of lid. And it was, that paint had gotten thick in there. So I used my cup of water and poured about a half a teaspoon of water in there. So I'm going to shake that up now. And I'll probably shake it up again when I go to put it away. So hopefully next time I use it, it'll be a little better consistency. But this is what I have now on my palette. I've got a little dab of red, and it doesn't take a lot of paint for this stuff. A little dab of black in case I need to darken it up, and a little bit of yellow in case I need to make that just a little bit orange, because there are 2 shades of red over here. So I'm going to tape that off, mix up these colors, and then we'll take another look. Mixing that paint seemed to go very well. I believe I can use this red right out of the bottle for this red part over here. Remember, this paint dries a little bit darker than it when you very first put it on. It'll darken just a little bit as it dries, but that is a very, very good close match on that. Then I put just a little bit of yellow, and you probably cannot even see the differentiation, but here this is a little bit orange. It's got a little bit yellow mixed with the red. I don't know that I'll use that drop of black, which is another good reason to start with just a little drop of paint. Now I am not above and beyond actually washing my brush, scooping that up and putting it back in the bottle, but I don't think I'm going to need that tonight for this part of the paint job. Okay, I have this taped up now. And if you watched my video from like a week or so ago, I showed this technique for scratches. On that video, I put a piece of tape along each side of the scratch, and then I just ran the paint in between. But then I found out later, if I put tape on just one side, I can paint the scratch and let the overflow get up here on the tape and not have to paint both sides, which just saves me a little time. So I have put some tape here. The other thing I found, and I'm just using regular tape that you would use to wrap a present with, and I also found another good idea. If I take my tape and fold back one corner right from the get-go before I put it down there, that gives me a little handle to pull that up off of here, so it's very easy to remove. So I have most of these taped. I'm going to tape one more right there. You probably can't even see that little scratch, but there's a little scratch right there. And I'll dab the paint and allow the overflow to come up here onto the paint, up onto the tape, and then I can pull that off and get rid of it. Now most of these little scratches are on the bright red part. So I did scoop my black paint up off of the palette and put it back in the jar. So you can just see a smudge where the black paint was, but that drop is gone. But I still have my red on there, and then my that's a little bit orange. So I am rinsing my brush out in my cup of water over here. You can't see it, but trust me, it's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to blot it here on the paper, and I'm going to blot it until that black paint comes out, because I use this brush to scoop that black paint and put it back into my jar. So when that looks pretty clear, I'm going to be ready to paint with my red. Now there are more. I've got like, how many tapes on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tapes. And there's a few other little scratches there, so I may have to do additional tapes. But we're going to start with these, then we'll let them dry a little bit, and then we will pull that off and do some more if more is needed. I'm going to do this bright red first, and I'm going to brush right here, right along that tape, and allow my brush to, I'm sure you probably can't exactly see, but any excess paint, I'm going to have it come this direction, so it'll be up on the tape rather than over here where it's on the floor, because I just don't need that much paint on that little scratch, and I don't want it to stand out too much. I'd like to do my best to kind of, minimize the appearance of those scratches. That's what this is about. I'm going to minimize the appearance of those scratches. I have given all those red areas where the tape was one coat. Now, when that's dry, I'm going to lift that tape up and move it to a new position and figure out the rest of these little scratches. Now, some of these scratches that are real tiny here along the edge, and you probably cannot even see them, but there's just a little bit of spot where the paint's gone. I'm just going to use that tap technique along there. And I'll tap with my brush, and then I'll go back and tap with my finger so that that paint just is barely on there on those itty bitty little spots where the paint is gone. They're not even a full scratch. It's just like a little bit of the paint has rubbed off here and there. Now, one thing about paint, if you get too much on, it's easy to remove. Remember, it's water-based. Even if it's dry, you can use a damp towel. Just be very careful when you use moisture. You never want very much moisture on your dollhouse, and you don't ever want to rub very hard ever. It's not too hard to actually rub the lithographs or the designs right off of your house, and then you'll have a bare spot of metal. It would look worse rather than better. So be very, very careful anytime you're cleaning or using moisture on your dollhouse. Less is better. All right, let's see if we can remove this tape and see how those scratches look. Remember, I left a little handle there so this tape is easy to remove. I learned that the other day when I was doing this. I'm actually going to take those little pieces of tape and stick them up here maybe. Then I've got them. I can reuse them here in a minute if I need to. Those scratches where I did that looks really, really good. Maybe it's the lighting or maybe it's my old eyes, but I'm telling you, it looks really, really good. I've repositioned my tape, so I'm going to continue to fill in those scratches with the bright red, and then there are a few of them on the areas that are just a little bit more of an orange. Now, if you're not happy with your paint color, don't be afraid to just change your color a little bit by mixing in a little bit more color, whatever you need, a little yellow or a little whatever, and do another real thin coat. So you never have to worry about not having a good color match. It's easily removed and it's easy to do another coat of a little different color, a little lighter or a little darker if you feel like it didn't dry quite the way you want it. And again, I'm just barely tapping that paint along that tape. Now there are a few little scratches here that I'm going to just try to tap without any tape next to them. They are just little tiny pin dots of paint gone. And I feel like that was very successful to just touch my brush to those and fill in those little tiny dots versus some of these longer scratches that take a little bit more. I talked myself into going ahead and touching up these scratches over here on the white garage, because if you were looking in this garage door, you would be able to see those. And so since I've got the paint out, I'm going to fix it. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I managed to splash some red paint over here into the garage. And so it kind of looks like a crime scene now. There's red splashes everywhere. So this is where it's good to have your paper towel handy. And I'm going to try rubbing alcohol first and see if that will take those off. I have a feeling it will. Let's see. And they're just really not even quite dry yet. Or if they are, they're barely dry. So let's see if we can get those off. I don't want to have a crime scene in my dollhouse. I mean, you know, maybe if it was Halloween I would, but there's even some up here on the wall. Yeah, that came off really easy. Alright, let me go ahead and fix these scratches. I'll probably lay tape down there and then fill in those little scratches using my tape measure or tape method. So the other thing I want to tell you, my challenge here is I've got red on my brush. Here's my cup over here with the water in it. And my water is actually a little reddish, so I need to have a pretty clear or clean brush. So I'm going to blot it on my towel pretty good to try to get that red out, because now I'm going to be painting with white and I really don't want it to turn to pink. I may even actually have to go switch my water out. But I want to tell you again what colors I use. Whenever you paint white on your dollhouse, you probably don't want white, bright white like this plate. See the difference between here and the actual white in the garage? So I like to use that buttercream. I either use white mixed with buttermilk. I always call it buttercream. White mixed with buttermilk, or in this case I used a antique white. And then I have a little bit of the buttermilk to go in it too, which is a slightly more yellow. So we're going to mix those two together. Oops, I forgot to get clean water. I'm going to get clean water before I do that, so otherwise I'm going to be painting my floor pink. Okay, I've got this taped off and I've got my white mixed up. So I'm going to repeat up here, just right next to my tape. Now you can see there's some red here on that tape, and that's that where I painted up against that, and I'm reusing that tape. But now I'm using this side of the tape where that red doesn't exist, so it won't contaminate my colors. The other thing I notice is when I look at the video over here, it's white. Well, that's just a reflection of the light. That is actually painted red there. And when I get done, I will show you that if I remember to show you, but it is painted nicely. I forgot, when I mix up these whites for that floor, I usually have a little bit of brown out. Sometimes it needs to be a little darker. So I had to get my brown, and I'll put a dot of brown on there next to my dot of white, and we'll make that just a little bit darker. It was a little light when I went to put it on the floor. I think that's done. Now you may have noticed I wasn't real happy with that color match, so I went back and mixed it up again. In fact, I actually wiped that completely off, and then I redid it again. Now again, there's a little red here, but that's actually on the tape that I've used to cover up the floor, so that should pull right off. There it did. So I think I am happy now with that color match and with the coverage of those scratches. I think I am done with this part of the house. Now there are a few little spots in the kitchen, and the kitchen is also red. So I am going to do it tonight too. I'm going to do maybe one more coat on those scratches. It's hard to stop, but it looks really good. Now again, tomorrow in the daylight, in a different light, if this doesn't look right, I could do another thin coat, or I could even remove that completely if I'm not happy with it. I think as of tonight, I think it looks good. But I'll look at it again tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to reposition the house so that you can see what I'm going to do in the kitchen. There's not much needs to be done there, but you might as well watch me. Okay, this camera angle is a little more difficult for me because I'm right-handed, and so I want you to be able to see. But right here there's a scratch, and this is probably from being assembled or unassembled because it's right by where the tab slot is. So they've been a little, you know, I don't know, I don't want to say they were careless, but that's probably why there's a little scratch there. There's a little bit here, same thing right by where the tab goes. Maybe here a little bit of paint gone, and right back here on the edge. And since this is red and I've got the red out, I put a new dot of red over here on my palette. It's just that same plain red. I didn't have to mix anything into it. I am going to dab a little paint on those spots. Now, there's very little other paint missing here in the middle, and so I don't think I'm going to touch that at all. I would rather leave that natural and have it be a little bit imperfect than to mess with it, because I just don't mind a few little imperfections, but as long as we have the red out, we are going to fix up these other little scratches. I'm just going to dab, dab, dab using the red paint on anything that looks like there's any paint missing for red. Since I have my paint out, my paintbrush out, and everything, I turned the house around to see if there's any spots back here that need a little touch up, and there are a couple. And this first one is right here. There's an orange dot, or a dot of orange paint missing. Right there. It's barely off camera, or barely on camera. But just a little more. Right here, there's a little spot. Looks like the paint is gone there. This is the little bit of an orangier color. So I put a little bit of yellow in that red, and I'm just going to touch that up. There's a little tiny scratch here. Since we have that paint out, let's fix him. There's a little scratch on the green. I'm probably going to leave him. If I get the green paint out one day, I may do something with that, but I'm not real concerned about it. If you remember in my last video, I bent one of these tabs. Well, I don't know if this is one I bent down, but at any rate, this tab right here shows. I'm going to paint him red while we're here with our red paint. I think he was bent down before. There might be a few little tiny scratches here. We'll just touch that brush to those. Maybe right in here there's a few little scratches. I'm just not even putting enough paint on there to make it worthwhile to even try to tape those scratches off. Just as long as we have the red paint, we're going to touch those up. And then I think right here by the door, there were a couple of little bitty scratches too. Right up in here. So let's touch those too. Just touch that paintbrush to those gently. And there's one up here, but this one's kind of black. So I do have black paint out. I may get a little dab of black paint and fix that. There's no reason to not try to make this house as little perfect as I can since I've got the paint out, and I'm just going to invest another few minutes in it. Let me get that black paint, and we'll put a little bit right in there, right above the door. You know, I mentioned the other day that I used a paper clip on this door to make a new kind of hinge for it. And I had forgotten. I did that. It's been a month or two ago I did that. And I had forgotten. I want to show you. I actually punched a couple of little holes here in the door right by the edge so I could run wire through there. And I could wire that paper clip hinge tightly to the door to keep it. And as you see, as I showed you last night, that door will open and shut perfectly now. It came with a little doorknob on it, a little tiny knob. So that is a permanent fix. So that is good. All right, let's see how we did color match wise. I put a little bit of red in with that black. Down on the shadow, that looks fine. Up here on the brick, that was a little dark, so we'll wipe it off there. That looks really good. All right. I don't know if you can hear, my dogs are starting to bark, so I think they're missing me. I'm going to head downstairs, but I will visit with you again soon, and I think we're ready to, I think we'll start working on the next story. I think that's what we'll do next time. Well, no, I'll tell you what I think I might do. I want to wax all of these pieces or polish them, and so I may do that at our next time that we sit and visit. Polish it up so it'll be shiny, and then I'm going to put this bottom story away and start working on the second story. Then after we get it touched up, which it doesn't need very much if anything, but we'll do a quick cleaning on it, we'll touch it up, and then we'll be ready to assemble, I think, after that. Thank you for joining me. I'll visit with you next time.